Rolling, darkness falls inside the GM Studios halls. Tabletop games where nightmares creep, in a realm where sanity is lost and weak. Welcome to the abyss where dreams shatter. Inside the GM studio, nothing else matters. Blood and chaos, the dark arts unfold. In the realm of role-playing, where legends are told.
Why, welcome back to this week's side question episode of Inside the GM Studio, where me and my hetero life mate Matt answer questions from the internet. I am your host, David.
I'm Matt.
And clack it out. I got a 14 this week. Good, not great.
Right. 14.
Mm-hmm.
All right. This one comes from Lightspeed Strike on RRPG with the title, Is It Wrong to Pull Rank as a Game Master? A bit of context. I have been friends with everyone at my table for a very long time. We are chill and we communicate our issues with each other like adults. I am the default GM at our table. Occasionally, someone else might volunteer to take the seat for a one-shot or a mini-campaign, but if I don't set up a session, we might spend 2 to 3 months without meeting. Though we started by playing D&D over the years, I have moved away from the system, tried out a few others, and eventually settled in in one that allowed me to tell the stories I wanted to. About half of the table still really likes D&D, and though I used to sprinkle one here and there, but after they recently asked for one, I finally decided to say, look, if you manage to get someone to run D&D for that day, I'll give them the shot. I'll give them the slot, but I'm not, wait, what? Hold on, let me go back here. I'm going to start that paragraph over again. About half of the table still really likes D&D. And though I used to sprinkle one here and there, but after they recently asked for one, I finally decided to say, look, if you manage to get someone to run D&D for the day, I'll give them the slot, but I'm not. Okay, gotcha. Of course, nobody wanted to run anything on short notice, and they mentioned that they are a bit burned out from my campaign, so the session got effectively canceled. I know I can run/not run whatever I want, but I don't want to unilaterally kill our regular hangouts. I have little trust of one of them running D&D regularly. So I'm mostly wondering, is there a way, or if there was any alternatives I'm missing, or if I was wrong to give an ultimatum like that at all?
Wow, okay. Well, that's interesting. First of all, I guess I'll just start by answering the question that was directly asked, which is, no, you're not in the wrong. If you don't want to run something, it's not incumbent upon you. If everyone is going to just be like, well, you're the GM, and you go, okay, well, if I'm going to be the GM and I'm going to take on that responsibility, I'm going to do so for this kind of game.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't want to play that kind of game, that's fine. I just won't run it. And if you want to run D&D, that's fine. You can run D&D. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. I don't think it's being overly stubborn. It's not being whatever.
No, the GM needs to have fun too.
Right. We're always on about that.
Mm-hmm.
However, you sound a little bit like you want to have your cake and eat it too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to compromise to run D&D because I don't like it. But I still want to play with these people on a regular basis, and they don't want to play the thing that I want to play. So it's like, okay, but here's what he's not illuminating, which I think would be worth him asking himself. Let's say he wants to run Shadowrun, and his players want him to run D&D. Now, all he said was he doesn't want to run D&D.
Mm-hmm.
Is there but maybe they just don't want Shadowrun, right? Maybe they want something that's closer to D&D, and there would be something that he would be more amenable to running something like Pathfinder, GURPS, or Savage Worlds, or Barbarians of Lemuria, or the Blade itself RPG, whatever that's called, the Blade of the Iron Throne. There we go. Um, maybe they would be more amenable to something like that because they kind of keeps it within the genre, but it's also not just the same thing as D&D. Maybe he would be more interested in that, the Mongoose Conan role-playing game or something.
Yeah.
He didn't say what he's running, so I don't know what he's running. So that would be a compromise, but you're fully within your right to just say to make you running a game contingent on whatever parameters you want, and your players can either accept or reject them. And just like the same thing, they can accept or reject the fact that they don't want to run a thing. So, I mean, I would also push back on the players a little bit that they want to play D&D. Well, they don't want to play it bad enough to have to run it. So then shut up. Like, is the game you're playing in enjoyable for you? If it's not, then don't play in it, right? If you're not enjoying the Shadowrun game, then don't sign up for the Shadowrun game. Just say, okay, I'm not really enjoying playing Shadowrun, so I'm just kind of out. Like, if you guys get another game together or whatever, let me know. Maybe I'll be in, but this is not my thing. So that's I really don't like when people claim to want something, but then they don't want to have to do anything to get the thing they want. Like, it's just like, then you don't fucking want it. Shut up. Like, and so if your group isn't going to meet unless you make this concession to run D&D, you don't want to be in that game anyway. No one else wants to do anything. They're putting it all on you. And including making a concession for what everybody else wants. You don't need to be held hostage like that. You can just decide, but you have to accept that might mean that there is no game, right?
Yeah.
That's the adult thing to do, is just accept that there might not be the thing that you want there to be, because if it's all on you to coordinate it or whatever, and no one will come to the game and run the game, and you're the guy that's got to run it, then you're the guy that's got to either make the concession or decide it's okay to not play. Like,
I found it. I found what he wants to play.
Oh, it's in
So
there. Okay.
I went through the comments to see if I could find if anybody asked him. And sure enough, they asked him, hey, like, nothing wrong with running whatever you want. And, if they want D&D, what is the big difference between what you want to run and what they want? And he said, I mentioned it in another reply, but I'm firmly believe in the collaboration storytelling aspect of TTRPGs. I mostly mean that I don't enjoy regularly GMing plots that by system design may always boil down to kill a thing, but I'm more into the murder mystery, supernatural investigation, stealth missions, and political intrigue of Vampire the Masquerade.
Okay. So, yep, that's about as far away from D&D as you can get.
Yeah.
And so the question that he probably would need to ask himself is there some game that would, like, first of all, we don't know what the group likes about D&D, because you could run a D&D game that had all those elements in it. You just have to build it. You'd have to build it from the ground up.
Yeah.
And you could have political intrigue and whatever. But if what they like about it is that it's straightforward, quest oriented, combat heavy, reliant on archetypes and occasionally cliches and stereotypes, it just feels well trodden and it's kind of more heroic, and they're not in for some sort of like grim existential exploration of like their characters' inner motivations, and not into like acting political intrigue and that sort of stuff, yeah, you're probably not gonna meet in the middle anywhere, because it's like that's what you don't want a different game, you want a different group.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's really what it boils down to. You don't want a different game, you just want a different group. You want guys that want to play what you want to play, or gals or whomever. And so maybe you just need to find some people that'll allow you to play that or allow you to run that or whatever, because I get it, D&D can be a little trite, but I mean, I think any game, if you play it enough, becomes kind of like it's got its tropes. All games have their tropes, and some of them you like and some of them you don't. So
yeah, I'm wondering if this is very recent. Well, this is like a year old, this post, so I'm guessing that he is talking about like 5th edition Vampire. Maybe he is talking about like the 20th anniversary that came out or whatever. But I don't know if he looked far enough and saw Vampire the Dark Ages, and that would give you a good medium because it's still very combat focused in a medieval fantasy heroic adventure sort of way, but it still has all of that everything else that he was looking for that Vampire has. Just
Yeah,
like
but
David was saying, you got to find that nice medium. So maybe like the Game of Thrones RPG that came out from Modifius. I can't remember now.
Sounds right.
Or was it? Yeah, it was something like that. But either way, that is kind of what you're looking for. Is still a medieval fantasy that has combat encounter mechanics, but it also has mechanics for the other things that he was looking for that intrigue and that political like back and forth.
Yeah, but here's the thing is like this is why it's important to know what his group likes about D&D. If they just like that it's in a medieval setting with sword fights, then yeah, there's lots of options there. But if they're antithetical to the style of game that he wants to play, they want quest-oriented breadcrumb adventures, like just throwing like a medieval skin over the top of it is not going to satisfy them. It's if it's still intrigue and lots of role playing and investigation, mystery, and there's not enough get the loot out of the dungeon, kill the bad guy, like drink ale in the tavern, and that's what they like, and then yeah, you're probably just not going to meet in the middle. But if they really just go like, I don't like the modern setting, I like the idea of like, the unexplored wilderness and riding horses and like, swords and castles, and it's like, okay, yeah, then there's probably, Vampire the Dark Ages, or like you said, Game of Thrones, or there are other fantasy RPGs that aren't as strategic as D&D. So
I was thinking about it in a way that maybe they like D&D because sure they want to go out and kill things, but that's where all the mechanics are in D&D. Like the big mechanics, the big game of it is in combat. So maybe if they played another game where there was actual game mechanics for the stuff that he wants to do, it might kind of spark something in them.
yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Maybe if there were mechanics for other aspects and it wasn't just so nebulous. Maybe they're just, I like rolling dice and I like moving a token across a board.
Yeah.
It's fun. And when I'm just sitting here talking to you and you're in character and we're just kind of like going back and forth, it doesn't really feel like a game to me. And I get that. I really do. So yeah, maybe if there were more gamified mechanics that were baked into some sort of system. But it could also just be not knowing much about these players. But if they don't want to run the game, they don't want to organize the game. What they want is something familiar. It sounds like that to me. It sounds like they don't want to be bothered. They're probably confused by the system, how to play it, like we were when we initially. But we didn't confuse by the system, but it's like, how do I play this game? Like, how is it like? It just you're trying to lose the habits of D&D, and you have to reassimilate into a different kind of game. And if I venture to guess, if he's really into it, he's probably like propelling the plot forward, and they probably feel like they're just kind of going along, like, oh, okay, he's giving us this plot beat over here, I guess we'll go get it, and he's really into it, probably getting into all the characters and like layer and then giving like, he's probably railroading them more than they realize, and they're just kind of going along, and they don't feel like they're the ones pulling at the action and like going after the things. And then when they play D&D, they probably feel that way because it's much more go and get the thing, like he just said, where it's like Vampire is all about like uncovering layers of a plot and like pursuing your own motivations, and so you need autonomous and curious characters to do that, but maybe they just feel like they're floundering in a sea of uncertainty as to what to do, and they like the straightforward certainty of a quest-based game. So
Yeah, I'm trying to find some good comments here to bring up. Let's see. Shade of Blue says only running games you want to run isn't exactly pulling rank. All of your friends have the same opportunity to GM whatever games they want to as well.
yeah,
That's what we were talking about. Is if they don't want to if they don't have the gumption to kind of say, well, then I want to do this, so I'll go ahead and run it. Then there has to
Yeah,
be something. There's got to be some give.
yeah, that's what I thought when he said like I was my first inclination too is like that's not pulling rank any more than it is when someone comes over to your house and you say, "Hey, can you take your shoes off at the door?" Right? Like
Yeah, yeah.
you're not pulling rank. It's your house. You get to decide what the rules in your own fucking house are. Like you're not pulling rank. It's like, okay, if you don't want to take your shoes off, that's fine. Go away. Don't come over to my house then, right? Like
So hot yogurt closet asks, why are they burned out? You were telling a story, but do they have a chance to affect the story? Is the rule system something that works for them? You are in the right not to run, and they are in the right to not play.
yeah.
Then the OP comes back and says they're burned out because one, the system is a bit dense, puts a little bit more responsibility of knowing the rules on the players than D&D does.
Does
Two,
not.
I am good at making them feel stressed when their characters are stressed in a horror/thriller movie kind of way. Those are perfectly valid reasons to want some lower stakes, punch the bad guy to death quest, but I don't like running those in D&D. I do offer a lot of options to affect the outcomes of everything, since I believe tabletop role playing games are about the collaborative and emergent storytelling.
Yeah, I mean that's good, but yeah, it sounds like first of all, I push back on saying that what it sounds like to me is that they don't understand the mechanics as well as D&D. And so they don't make use of them as much. And so because if it's a largely role-playing based game, I mean generally speaking, you can run entire chapters, entire stories in VTM without ever rolling dice at all. Like
Yeah,
it's just
very true.
you just kind of go like, okay, I'm good at this. Here's what my dice pool would be. There's even a mechanic for that, right? You go like, oh,
Mhm.
is the difficulty? I have a 8 dice pool. Is the difficulty but worse than 8? No, then I just do that thing because I said I do it. And so, um, but yeah, if you're stressing them out, it seems like they just don't like that genre. They don't like to feel uneasy and on edge. They want to feel heroic, and they want to feel like emboldened, and they want to be curious and not like, dreadful or whatever. That's just a difference in the kind of tone of game you want. Um you could get the things he wants, the OP. You can get intrigue and role playing and whatever and remove that dread element. Um and still kind of get what you want. And maybe if you removed that dread element, introduce something a little more familiar, a little kind of easier to grok, they might latch onto it. That might be a amenable compromise.
Mhm. Man, going through a lot of these comments, they're pretty much all kind of just saying the same shit that we are, and they're saying the same shit that everyone else is putting in the comments. I'm trying to find some good stuff here. Nothing wrong with running what you're into, but the red flag for me here is that you settled on one that allowed you to tell the stories that you wanted to. RPGs shouldn't be about you telling the stories that you want to. It should be about your group collectively telling the stories you all want to. It's not clear whether that's happening or not with your group, but it's worth thinking about.
Yeah, I mean that's a pretty good point, and it kind of occurred to me too. It's like he said at the outset that he really believes that tabletop RPGs are a collaborative effort.
Hmm.
And then it's like, okay, so then collaboratively you should opt in too. Like it shouldn't be everybody collaboratively tells the stories that I want told. It should be like, what stories do we want to tell together, and what sort of things would lend themselves naturally to that kind of storytelling effort. But again, that's not to say that it's not to say that he's not within his right to make this decision and to, but just you're kind of talking out of both sides of your mouth when you say I believe it's collaborative, but I don't want to tell these types of stories. It's like, well, then it's really not collaborative because you have a hard line where you're saying I don't do these sort of things. And that's perfectly within your rights to just have a hard line on anything, but you can't simultaneously say that it's fully collaborative when it sounds like your players are not having a great time when you get your way, and when they get their way, you're not having a good time. Collaboration would require for both of you your players and you to establish where the Venn diagram of the things you want overlaps and try to craft a game that lives in that sliver.
One of our multiple commenters here in our Twitch chat, Doth Jingo, he says you can like what you like, you can believe what you want, but it makes for an unenjoyable experience if it's not what they like, or don't believe what you believe without coming to a consensus without discussing about it. We were talking about this before you showed up, that it's almost like a session zero sort of thing, that you need to come to a consensus both with the players and the GM, that the GM kind of says, this is what I want to run. And they have to say, well, if that's how it's going to happen, then, all right, that's what you.
Sorry. The longer we're talking about this, the more it just reminds me if of going to bed with someone, right? You're like,
Oh,
you're just
yeah.
you go, there's nothing wrong with having boundaries, and you have to establish what it is that you both want and where you both feel good and you both are getting what it is that you want. It in a lot of ways it very much is like that.
It
where
is.
it's
Now that you bring it up and say it that way, you very much is.
Sorry, I didn't mean to I wasn't laughing at
that's
what you were
fine.
saying. It was I was like, wow, this is a lot like everything everybody is saying is no, you're fully within your rights. You're not being a control freak. It's your decision
Well,
to
it's not
enter.
like-
You don't have to do anything that makes you uncomfortable.
When I read it, I was waiting for it to say, because he was just like, I want to pull rank as a GM. I was waiting for him to say a really, like a cocksucker thing to say, but
Yeah.
it didn't. It was actually kind of nice. And I was like, well, I can't really say that you're in the wrong because you're not being a dickhead about it. So it's like more of that sweet, you got to be that way. You got to be kind. You kind of just got to be working with each other with the boundaries and all that.
Yeah,
And the way that
yeah.
you put it is perfect.
Yeah, listen to what the person that you're doing with this thing with wants. Go, okay, I'm not willing to do that, but here are some things that I am interested in, and are these things that you're interested in? And you go, okay, now we're both interested in kind of the same thing. We can kind of things can play out in that way where we both feel good. We're both our needs are being met. Right?
Yeah,
It's
even Dust Jingle in the chat just said, oddly, gaming shares a lot with real life relationships. Actually, it is, because really, when you're putting together a game, you really asking everybody out on a date, and you're coming to say, when are we going to have this date? And then making sure everybody's comfortable with what's going on.
Yeah. I mean, what is the GM? It's a lot like having throwing a party or whatever. You want to make sure everyone has a nice time. Matt doesn't eat meat, so let's get some options for him, and but I know he likes bourbon, so I'll get some bourbon. Make the house. What sort of music does everybody like? You wouldn't just be like, I like punk rock, and I don't care if everybody coming to my party fucking hates it. I'm playing the Clash at maximum volume. You'd be like, no, what does everyone like? Well, you guys, classic rock okay with you guys? It's a lot like that, and that's part of what makes it so fun. It's the same thing that satisfies us about any sort of relationship is what satisfies us about games, and then you add into it some sort of collaborative thing where there's a challenge and rewards, and you have something that's tantamount to Crash, right? It's why everyone loves RPGs so much.
All right, I think that's a good spot to end on. You got anything? Any final thoughts there, David?
No, it's tantamount to crack. I think I had said what I had to say.
Very much so. Let's leave that with a good night then.
And good